New ways of thinking. Well, I wonder if this thing's even going to work. Let me unplug a couple things. Is it still recording? Hey, welcome back. New ways of thinking. Can you hear?
Brought many changes to Europe. Feudalism came to an end.
Feudalism.
Farmers began producing more agricultural goods than they needed. Trade increased. These changes led to a new age in European history called the Renaissance,
The Renaissance.
or rebirth,
Rebirth.
a time of renewed interest in art and learning.
Okay. So, today's Georgia Performance Standards. Located on a map, the Danube River, Rhine River, English Channel, and Mediterranean Sea. Explain how autocratic governments determine citizen participation. They don't really get to participate. Explain why international trade requires a system for currency exchange. International trade, trading between two countries, requires a system, some kind of way for them to change money. Key terms: Renaissance. Say Renaissance. Yes, Renaissance. Humanism. Say humanism. Good. Say perspective. Yes, perspective. Reformation. Say Reformation. Good. Catholic Reformation. Say Catholic Reformation. Good. Now, if you look here, Leon Battista Alberti drew on ancient models for his Renaissance church. This is the Santa Maria Novella in Florence, Italy. I have been here. It's gorgeous. I love Florence. They have delicious gelato, which gelato is Italian for ice cream. The Italian Renaissance. Italy is a peninsula in southern Europe. A peninsula means it's connected to a continent that is surrounded by water. Italy had been the center of the Roman Empire. This classical influence contributed to the Renaissance because of its beautiful, beautiful buildings and all the statues and artwork. Trade grows and cities compete. Italian traders brought silks and spices back from Asia. They sold these in Italian cities such as Genoa, Venice, and Florence. These cities were major trade centers. In the markets, people exchanged coins from different lands. Merchants adopted a system to deposit money and write checks. These practices became the basis of modern banking today. So back during the Italian Renaissance, they created what is now very similar to what is now our way of exchanging money. You go to the bank, you get some money, you can put money in the bank, you write a check, they cash it for you. Unlike the kingdoms of other parts of Europe, Italy was divided into city-states. These city-states were often ruled by one powerful family. Like in Florence, they had the Medici family. In addition to ruling families, city-states were dominated by a wealthy merchant class, people who had all the money and sold all the stuff. City-states fought often, frequently. They invented taxes on property and income and other ways to finance their wars. So these little city-states told the people that lived there, you're going to give us some of the money you earn, and we'll protect you. As we're going through this, remember the words Renaissance, humanism, perspective, Reformation, and Catholic Reformation. As you will see on your sheet, when it says Section 1 Assessment, you'll look at the key terms for number 1, and it asks you to explain how the following terms affected European life in the period covered in this section. Go ahead and put your finger on the word Renaissance on that sheet. Now, on another piece of paper, I want you to write the word Renaissance. Go ahead and do that now. Renaissance. And then put a dash and write the definition of Renaissance. The definition of Renaissance: rebirth, a time of a renewed interest in art and learning. Let's go ahead and copy that down for Renaissance. Now, if you need more time, press pause, because I'm going to continue. Okay, moving forward, if you need more time, you should have paused and copied that down. Next page. You can always go back. I'm going to let this lady read it to you.
Old and new ideas inspire. Trade brought Europeans into contact with the learning of Asia and the Muslim world. For example, Muslim mathematician Al-Khwarizmi had used Hindu-Arabic numerals and developed algebra in the 700s. Muslim scholars had copied and preserved works from ancient Greece and Rome. Many of these had been lost in Europe. Europeans also learned Chinese techniques such as block printing and paper making. During the Renaissance, European scholars took an interest in ancient Greek and Roman ideas. This was the beginning of humanism, or the study of secular or non-religious subjects such as history and philosophy. Humanists emphasized individual accomplishment and serving the people of this world instead of focusing on religion. Art copies nature. Medieval artists had focused on teaching spiritual lessons. As a result, their art was symbolic, not realistic. In contrast, the Greeks and Romans had honored nature and tried to make their art lifelike. Renaissance artists imitated the realism of classical art. Art changed in two major ways during the Renaissance. First, artists studied the human body so that they could create lifelike statues and paintings. Second, Renaissance painters used perspective, a technique that allows artists to portray a three-dimensional space on a flat surface. Artists Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci both created Renaissance masterpieces. Michelangelo carved sculptures such as the statue David. He also painted scenes from the Bible on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. Leonardo painted the famous portrait Mona Lisa. He also drew thousands of diagrams of ideas for inventions. Architect Filippo Brunelleschi used classical features such as domes, columns, and arches in his buildings. Reading check. What did humanists emphasize?
So you need to check, what does humanists emphasize? And if you look right here, it gives you humanism, which is the second word that you have to explain, your key term for number 1 on your paper. Or is it? Oh, it's not listed on there. Well, let's go ahead and write down the answer to this question. Humanism, the study of secular or non-religious subjects. These are things that don't have anything to do with religion, but more about what we know for sure happened. And history would be part of that, and philosophy. They kind of stray away from the idea of serving the world, and it's more about individuals accomplishing and serving the people of this world instead of just focusing on religion. So write down humanism and then copy this portion right here. The study of secular, non-religious subjects such as history and philosophy. What did humanists emphasize? The answer to the question? They emphasized individual accomplishment, like you accomplishing something, and serving the people of this world instead of focusing on religion. Much like we think Steve Jobs is pretty cool because he invented the iPad. If you need more time, press pause, and you can continue as you need to. We're going to move forward now. You should have, at this time, written down the Renaissance is a rebirth, a time of renewed interest in art and learning. And the next part you should have written down is, what did humanists emphasize? Humanism was a study of secular or non-religious subjects such as history and philosophy, and humanists emphasized individual accomplishment in serving the people of this world instead of focusing on religion. Now you'll see here an example of that, and this is Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel painting, and he used perspective to make a flat surface, like a wall, which this is painted on a wall, look like a three-dimensional space. In the middle, he depicted Jesus Christ and all the disciples, and this is a painting of the Last Supper. This is actually bigger than the walls in this room. He painted this in 1495. It was a long time ago. You can go see this in Florence, Italy today. No, not in Florence, excuse me. You can see it in Rome, Italy. Where is it? I'm confused. Yeah, it's in Rome. Ooh. Gutenberg's press. Gutenberg and his pressmen examine a newly printed page. So they invent the printing press. The page at the left was copied out by hand. The page to the right was printed using movable type. How did Gutenberg's printing press change books? Written by hand? Printing press. Could you imagine writing this by hand? Whew. What about drawing this? At one time, monks sat and just wrote all of this. Gutenberg comes along and creates this. Let's hear about the Northern Renaissance.
The Northern Renaissance. A network of land and sea trade routes linked the city-states of Italy with the kingdoms and small states of Northern Europe. These northern lands included England, Germany, and Flanders, a region now divided between France and Belgium. Like Italy, Germany and Flanders were divided into small, competitive states. Northern cities grow. Improved ships made traveling by sea faster than traveling overland. As a result of rapid sea travel, trade between Northern and Southern Europe increased. Trade also increased within Northern Europe. Some northern towns decided to form trade associations so they could have more influence over trade. For example, the Hanseatic League was a group of more than 60 towns in Germany and other lands. They worked together to improve trade among members. Cities and countries began to specialize in the production of certain goods. The countries of England, France, and Flanders produced cloth. Northeastern Europe produced grain. Germany, Hungary, and Austria mined copper, iron, gold, and silver. Trade helped northern cities such as London, Paris, Bruges, and Lyon grow. A middle class of traders and craftsmen developed. Middle-class people were wealthier than peasants and could buy more goods. This encouraged trade. Renaissance ideas spread. Renaissance ideas spread to Northern Europe in several ways. First, traders brought the new ideas with them. Second, rulers such as King Francis I of France invited Renaissance scholars and artists to visit their courts. Third, many northern nobles and wealthy members of the middle class traveled to Italy for their education. While in Italy, they learned about Renaissance ideas.
And northern cities grow at a rapid rate as a result of rapid speed travel. Now, they didn't have cars back then. They didn't have trains. They didn't have planes. They had horse and buggy or boats. Which do you think would go faster? They're trading and trading and trading stuff. Now, if you look at your little sheet, it says, what cultures helped to shape the Renaissance? What cultures helped to shape the Renaissance? Would it have been England, Germany, and Flanders? A region now divided between France and Belgium. Like Italy, Germany, and Flanders were divided into small, competitive states. I don't think we've quite got to that question yet. But if you look at number 6, it'll ask you about, think critically. It says synthesize. How did the printing press affect the spread of Protestantism? We got there yet? We talked about Gutenberg's press, didn't we? Oh, I think so. Gutenberg's pressmen examine a newly printed page. What do you think? Boats are getting faster. We're printing stuff. Is it easier to travel, to send information at this time? Because you can print stuff quickly and get on fast boats and travel. And as these people are trading different items, they're also taking information with them. Let's talk about how new technology helps spread knowledge. Can I get this whole section on here? Pretty close. New technology helps spread knowledge.
New technology helped spread knowledge. In the 1400s, German craftsman Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press. Gutenberg made movable type, or pieces of metal formed into letters of the alphabet. He then printed pages by using a machine to squeeze paper against inked type. Before the printing press, the only way to reproduce writing was by hand. The press made it possible to create copies of books much faster than ever before. As more books became available, more people learned to read. Renaissance ideas began to influence Northern artists and writers. Flemish artist Peter Bruegel, the Elder, painted lively scenes of peasant life. German artist Albrecht Dürer used Italian techniques of realism and perspective to create lifelike paintings. The English playwright William Shakespeare wrote brilliant plays seen as key works of Renaissance humanism. In his play Hamlet, he expressed the Renaissance view of human potential. What a piece of work is a man! How noble in reason, how infinite in faculties, in form and moving, how express and admirable in action, how like an angel in apprehension, how like a god. Shakespeare's work remains popular today, both on stage and in movies. Some Northern writers, known as Christian humanists, combined classical and religious studies. The Dutch scholar Erasmus studied the New Testament in its original Greek language. He suggested the Catholic Church make changes, such as teaching in modern languages instead of Latin. The English humanist Thomas More wrote about an ideal society in his book Utopia. Today, we use the word utopia to mean a place of perfection in laws and society. Reading check. Who spread Renaissance ideas to Northern Europe?
Who did that? Who did it? Who? There it is. Who? There it is. Who spread Renaissance ideas to Northern Europe? She just told us. German craftsman Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press. Did he spread Renaissance ideas to Northern Europe? Before the printing press, the only way to reproduce writing was by hand. The press made it possible to create copies of books much faster. Renaissance ideas began to influence northern artists and writers. Flemish artist Peter Bruegel, kind of like Google, Bruegel, the elder painted lively scenes of peasant life. German artist Albert Dürer used Italian techniques of realism and perspective. The English playwright William Shakespeare wrote brilliant plays seen as key works of Renaissance humanism. In his play Hamlet, he expressed the Renaissance view of human potential. What a piece of work is a man! How noble in reason, how infinite in faculties, in form and moving, how express and admirable in action, how like an angel in apprehension, how like a god. We'll continue here a little bit.